In the Peloponnese, there was a beast that terrorized the region's inhabitants, the fearsome Nimian Lion. Larger than any other known lion, this creature was the offspring of two legendary monsters, Orthrus and Echidna, which made its strength and ferocity unmatched. No human weapon could wound it, for its hide was impenetrable, and the local people lived in constant fear. All who dared face it failed, and the creature seemed invincible. This was the first labor of Hercules, ordered by Eurystheus. Hercules was tasked with killing the Nimian lion and bringing back its hide as proof of his victory. Without hesitation, the hero set off to confront the beast, knowing it would be no ordinary battle. Upon encountering the lion, Hercules quickly realized just how dangerous it was. Arrows shot at the monstrous creature merely bounced off its skin, and no blade could pierce its thick hide. After several frustrating attempts to wound it with weapons, the hero understood he needed a different approach. In his second attempt, Hercules decided to rely solely on his brute strength. Unarmed, he lunged at the lion, grabbing it with his powerful hands. The ensuing struggle was violent and fierce. The lion, with its sharp claws and relentless jaws, tried with all its might to bring the hero down. But Hercules, with his superhuman strength, held his ground. He wrestled with the beast until he managed to immobilize it. Wrapping his arms around the lion's neck, Hercules strangled it until the creature's last breath faded away. With the monster finally dead, Hercules still had to complete the hardest part of the labor, removing the lion's impenetrable hide. No knife could cut through its skin, so Hercules came up with an ingenious solution. Using one of the lion's own claws, sharp enough to pierce its hide, he skinned the beast. This hide would become one of his signature garments, a tough, indestructible piece of armor that he would wear in many future adventures, protecting him from weapons and attacks. After the battle, the Nimian lion did not completely vanish from the world. According to legend, the beast was honored by the gods and transformed into the constellation Leo, so that its memory and power would continue to shine in the sky. Hercules, in turn, returned to Eurystheus with the lion's hide as proof of his triumph. Completing his first labor and establishing his confidence as the greatest of heroes. This initial conquest was just the beginning of his long and epic journey. The victory over the Nimian lion not only demonstrated Hercules' superior physical strength, but also his ability to overcome adversity with intelligence and courage. The second labor of Hercules was not for the faint-hearted. He made his way to Lake Lerna, where the dreaded Hydra resided, a monstrous serpent with no less than 9 heads. A daughter of Typhon and Echidna, the Hydra was such a dangerous creature that its breath was poisonous, capable of killing anyone who ventured too close. The mission seemed nearly impossible, but Hercules was not alone. His nephew, Iolaus, accompanied him, ready to assist the hero on his journey. Upon arriving at the lake, the atmosphere was tense. The waters stirred, and soon the Hydra emerged, displaying its menacing, sinuous heads. Hercules, with his immense strength, brandished his sword and struck, severing the creature's first head. But to his dismay, instead of dying, 2 new heads grew back in its place. With every blow, the Hydra seemed to grow stronger, mocking the hero's efforts. Hercules realized he needed a different strategy. That's when Iolaus had an idea. He quickly grabbed a torch and, with a swift move, cauterized the wounds where the heads had been cut, preventing new ones from growing. Meanwhile, Hercules focused on delivering his strikes, using all of his skill and might. After a fierce battle, Hercules finally severed the last head, which was immortal. Iolaus, quick as ever, used the torch to burn the wound, and Hercules, with a decisive move, buried the immortal head beneath a giant stone, sealing the Hydra's fate. But Hercules' cunning didn't stop there. He took the opportunity to dip his arrows into the Hydra's venom, turning the creature's death into an advantage for future challenges. With a victorious smile, Hercules and Iolaus left Lake Lerna, ready to face new dangers, but now with a bit more wisdom and, of course, deadlier weapons. Hercules' third labor was to capture the legendary Seran Hind, a magnificent animal with golden antlers and bronze hooves, capable of running at incredible speeds. The hind was, in fact, Tegidi, a nymph who had been transformed by Artemis into an unmatched creature to escape the grasp of Zeus. Knowing the fame of this sacred deer, Hercules set out determined, aware that this mission would be as challenging as the ones before it. The chase began, and for an entire year, Hercules ran tirelessly in pursuit of the hind. With each step, he was astonished by the animal's unbelievable speed. Days passed, but the hero never relented, even as his legs grew weary. The hind always seemed just a step ahead, gracefully leaping through forests and hills, as if taunting Hercules' persistence. Finally, after months of relentless pursuit, the hind, now exhausted, was lightly struck by an arrow shot by Hercules. Filled with both satisfaction and concern, Hercules caught the deer and hoisted it onto his shoulders. Yet, the journey back to the kingdom of Eurystheus would not be simple. In some versions of this story, the focus was on capturing the hind without injuring it. In this case, Hercules had to use his cunning, throwing a net to trap the animal. However, during the capture, the hind was injured, and Hercules, fearing Artemis's wrath, quickly blamed Eurystheus. He knew the goddess of the hunt would be furious upon discovering that her sacred creature had been harmed. Another telling of the myth describes the moment when Hercules, now in possession of the hind, encountered Artemis herself. The goddess, furious to see her sacred animal captured, threatened Hercules with death. But when she learned of the labors he had to complete, her anger subsided. She agreed to let him take the hind to Eurystheus, on the condition that he would return it as soon as it was shown to the king. And so, Hercules continued his journey, bringing the Seran hind back, a symbol of his persistence and cunning, while the goddess of the hunt watched from afar, reflecting on the courage and skill of the hero who had dared to challenge the impossible. Hercules' fourth labor took him to the mountains of Erymanthos, where a massive boar was wreaking havoc, devastating crops and terrorizing the local inhabitants. The task was clear: capture the boar alive, but this would be no easy feat, given its immense size and strength. Determined to take on this challenge, Hercules set out in search of the animal, prepared for a long pursuit. The boar, with its thick bristles and razor-sharp tusks, was quick and cunning. However, Hercules remained undaunted. With patience and strategy, he began tracking the beast, moving quietly through the forests and over the hills. Hours passed, and the chase intensified. The boar ran tirelessly, but Hercules, demonstrating his incredible stamina, kept pace. With each step, the boar began to tire, and the hero realized that persistence would be the key to his victory. As the boar circled the mountain again and again, it grew more fatigued, and Hercules' triumph seemed closer. At last, after an immense effort, Hercules managed to corner the boar, now exhausted and panting. With one final move, he seized the animal and hoisted it onto his shoulders. The victory was sweet, but an even greater surprise awaited him. Upon returning to the kingdom of Eurystheus, Hercules entered with the live boar, a sight that made the king tremble with fear. The boar, in all its might, was a terrifying spectacle, and Eurystheus, terrified, hid himself inside a bronze cauldron, too frightened to face the creature. What was meant to be a celebration turned into a moment of pure panic for the king. After this bizarre scene, Hercules decided the boar's tusks deserved a special place. He took the animal to the temple of Apollo in Cumae, where its tusks were displayed as a trophy, a testament to the hero's daring feat. This capture not only solidified Hercules' reputation, but also became a part of the legend he built through his labors. The journey through the mountains of Erymanthos was not just a physical achievement, but also a testament to the willpower and bravery that defined the great Hercules. Hercules' fifth labor was one of the most unusual and, without a doubt, one of the dirtiest. He was tasked with cleaning the stables of King Augeas, a true challenge since these stables had not been cleaned for 30 years. With 3,000 oxen living there, the stench was unbearable, and the accumulation of filth was so massive that it emitted a deadly gas, enough to drive away anyone who dared come close. Hercules arrived at the stables with a determined air, but also a sense of disbelief. What seemed like a simple task quickly revealed itself to be a monumental challenge. King Augeas, on the other hand, intended to humiliate the hero, betting that he couldn't possibly complete the job in a single day. But Hercules was not one to be easily intimidated. Instead of resorting to traditional cleaning methods, Hercules decided to use his intelligence. He surveyed the surroundings and came up with a brilliant idea: to divert the course of two nearby rivers. With a bold strategy in mind, he began his work. He dug trenches and redirected the waters of the Alpheus and Penance rivers toward the stables, creating a powerful flow that would sweep away all the accumulated filth. The river waters, crystal clear and strong, started flooding the stable. Within hours, what had once been a foul and unbearable place was transformed into a clean and fresh space. The force of the current swept away all the muck and waste, washing the area in a way that seemed almost magical. By the end of the day, the task was complete. Exhausted but satisfied, Hercules presented the now clean stables to Augeas. The king, surprised and bewildered, had no choice but to acknowledge the hero's feat. In his mind, however, he was still plotting how to rid himself of the man who had accomplished what seemed impossible. This labor, more than just a simple cleaning job, revealed Hercules' cleverness and strength. By diverting the rivers, he not only cleaned the stables, but also defied the king's expectations. The task itself became legend, an example of how intelligence and bravery can triumph over the most filthy and daunting challenges. Hercules' sixth labor took him to Lake Stymphalus, a place that had become a living nightmare for the local inhabitants. The lake was home to monstrous birds whose heads, wings, and beaks were made of iron. These creatures were so enormous and fierce that their silhouettes blocked the sunlight, casting a menacing shadow over the landscape. Their sharp cries were a symphony of terror that echoed across the region. Hercules knew this mission would not be easy. Armed with his bow and poisoned arrows, he prepared for the confrontation. Upon reaching the lake, the hero saw the birds circling above, ready to attack anyone who dared to come near. The challenge was not just to face their strength, but also to act swiftly before they caused even more destruction. With unwavering focus, Hercules began firing his arrows. His precision was remarkable. Each arrow struck its target with a powerful impact. He managed to bring down several of the birds, and with every successful shot, his confidence grew. However, not all the birds were ready to surrender. Some, wounded, flew away frantically, spreading panic as they attempted to escape from the lake. Hercules then adopted a new strategy. Rather than trying to kill them all, he decided to drive away the remaining birds. With his bow, he unleashed a barrage of poisoned arrows, creating a devastating effect that forced the birds to flee from the lake, flying off to distant lands, far from civilization. The battle was fierce, but Hercules' determination triumphed over the terror of these creatures. By the end of the day, Lake Stymphalus was free of the monstrous birds, and the sunlight was able to shine over the region once again. Hercules had not only eliminated a dire threat, but also restored peace to that part of Greece. Upon his return, he brought not just the news of victory, but another legend of his bravery and skill. Once again, the hero proved that with courage and cunning, he could overcome any challenge that stood in his way. Hercules' seventh labor took him to the island of Crete, where a formidable bull had become a living nightmare for the local population. This raging and untamable bull terrorized everyone, and its origin was as intriguing as its ferocity. Poseidon, the god of the seas, had sent the bull as a gift to King Minos, who was awestruck by its beauty and strength. However, Minos hesitated to sacrifice the creature as Poseidon had commanded, leading to the bull's uncontrollable wrath. When Hercules was tasked with capturing the bull alive and delivering it to Eurystheus, he knew he was in for a monumental challenge. Upon arriving on the island, he quickly encountered the animal's fury, as it rampaged through the land, leaving destruction in its wake. Yet Hercules was undeterred, his resolve unshaken. With skill and courage, Hercules began tracking the bull, using his cunning to avoid its wild attacks. He knew he needed to approach with care, so he waited for the right moment. When the bull's rage seemed to lessen, Hercules sprang into action, grabbing its horns with great strength and using all his might to subdue the beast. The battle between Hercules and the bull was legendary. The animal fought fiercely, but the hero, riding atop the creature, demonstrated remarkable control. After an intense struggle, Hercules managed to overpower the bull, which, though still agitated, eventually calmed under the hero's firm grip. With a mix of triumph and adrenaline, Hercules mounted the bull and began his journey back to Eurystheus's kingdom. Upon reaching the palace, the sight of the massive bull, now under control, was awe-inspiring. Eurystheus, upon seeing the enormous beast, was utterly terrified. The king was so intimidated by the presence of the bull that he hid behind his table, unable to face the creature. Hercules, however, was satisfied, not only for completing the task, but for having brought back a symbol of strength and courage. After presenting the bull to Eurystheus, it was given to Hera, who wasted no time using it in her schemes. Once again, Hercules proved to the world that with bravery and skill, he could confront and tame even the most ferocious creatures, further solidifying his reputation as one of the greatest heroes in Greek mythology. Hercules' eighth labor took him to the wild lands of Thrace, where Diomedes, a cruel and sadistic king, ruled. Diomedes, son of Ares, the god of war, possessed monstrous horses that breathed smoke and fire through their nostrils, ferocious creatures that fed on human flesh. The merciless king would offer his unfortunate foreign captives, shipwrecked on his shores by storms, as food for his ravenous animals. Instead of welcoming these castaways, Diomedes condemned them to death, throwing them to his vicious horses. Hercules' mission was clear: put an end to this reign of terror. When he arrived in Thrace, the hero was greeted by a scene of desolation and fear. The horses, chained but restless, snorted smoke and fire, their sharp teeth eager for their next victim. Diomedes, confident in his cruelty and the protection of his horses, showed no fear when he saw Hercules, believing the hero would be just another victim for his beasts. But Hercules was not intimidated. With his superhuman strength and fearless courage, he advanced on Diomedes. The battle between the hero and the king was fierce. Diomedes, a warrior by blood and heir to the god of war, fought skillfully, but he was no match for Hercules' overwhelming power. In just a few blows, Hercules defeated him. However, Diomedes' true punishment was yet to come. Hercules decided that the cruel king should face the same fate he had inflicted on so many unfortunate souls. Without hesitation, he dragged Diomedes to the horses. The creatures, accustomed to the taste of human flesh, were uncontrollable in their fury. In a decisive act, Hercules fed the king to his own voracious animals. In a moment of poetic justice, the very horses Diomedes had used to spread terror devoured their master. After the fall of Diomedes, Hercules tamed the horses, subduing their savage natures. Upon his return, he brought the beasts back to Eurystheus, completing yet another labor that required not just physical strength, but a relentless sense of justice. Diomedes' name, once synonymous with cruelty, faded from the memory of Thrace, while Hercules once again stood tall as the hero. Hercules' ninth labor took him to a distant and feared land, the kingdom of the Amazons, a people made up of warrior women whose reputation for fearlessness and strength was known throughout Greece. Their queen, Hippolyta, was famed not only for her leadership, but also for her extraordinary magic girdle, a gift from Ares, the god of war. The girdle symbolized not only her power over the Amazons, but also her invincibility in battle. Eurystheus, driven by his desire to test Hercules and prove his might, ordered him to seize Hippolyta's girdle and bring it back. Hercules knew this task would be one of the most delicate challenges he had faced. The Amazons were formidable warriors, trained in combat from childhood, and Hippolyta in particular was a respected leader known for her skill with the sword and bow. Nevertheless, the hero set off determined to complete his mission. Upon arriving in the land of the Amazons, Hercules was met with curiosity and caution. Surprisingly, Hippolyta did not immediately show hostility. Intrigued by the hero's fame, she agreed to meet with him. During their conversation, Hercules explained his mission, and the queen, impressed by his honesty and courage, was willing to give him the girdle willingly, without conflict. However, Hera, always seeking ways to sabotage Hercules, could not allow him to complete this task so easily. Disguised as an Amazon, Hera spread rumors among the warriors that Hercules had come not only to take the girdle, but also to kidnap Hippolyta and enslave their entire people. Enraged, the Amazons prepared to attack the hero. When Hercules sensed the shift in their attitude, the battle became inevitable. The Amazons, clad in gleaming armor and mounted on swift horses, charged at the hero in fierce waves. Hercules, with his unmatched strength and agility, faced each warrior, skillfully defeating his opponents. The battle was brutal, with spears and swords clashing in the heat of combat, but the hero, driven by the need to survive and fulfill his mission, prevailed. Amid the chaos, Hippolyta, realizing what had happened, tried to intervene, but it was too late. The battle had already been lost for her warriors. Hercules, determined to complete what he had been tasked with, subdued the queen and took the magic girdle from her waist. With the girdle in hand, Hercules departed, leaving behind a shaken kingdom of the Amazons, still admirable in their bravery. The capture of Hippolyta's girdle, though marked by a bloody battle, was yet another testament to the hero's strength and unstoppable destiny, showing that not even the fiercest warriors on earth could deter him. Upon delivering the girdle to Eurystheus, Hercules proved once more that even challenges involving great leaders and powerful peoples could be overcome with courage, strategy,
Hercules' 10th
and
labor
indomitable
took him on an
strength. Epic and distant journey to the ends of the known world, to the lands of Erythea. His objective? To face the giant Geryon, a monstrous creature with 3 bodies, 6 arms, and 6 wings, whose reputation for invincibility struck terror in everyone. Geryon owned a magnificent herd of cattle, whose horns shone like gold in the sunlight. These animals were guarded by a fierce 2-headed dog named Orthrus and a 7-headed dragon that watched over the pasture day and night. Capturing Geryon's cattle seemed like an impossible task, but for Hercules, nothing was insurmountable. The journey to Erythea was long and arduous. Hercules had to cross scorching deserts and perilous seas, facing obstacles along the way with his relentless strength and indomitable courage. During his passage, he raised the famous Pillars of Hercules, landmarks of his journey, symbolizing his determination to go beyond the limits of the world. Nothing would stop him until his mission was accomplished. Upon reaching the lands of Geryon, Hercules encountered Orthrus, the 2-headed dog, whose ferocity was legendary. The beast charged at the hero with its sharp fangs, but Hercules, with a swift blow from his club, defeated the creature. Next, he faced the 7-headed dragon, which breathed fire and poison. With a series of skillful strikes and poisoned arrows, Hercules managed to decapitate the dragon, eliminating yet another obstacle between him and his goal. Finally, the confrontation with Geryon himself remained. The giant, with his 3 bodies and 6 arms, looked like an entire army in a single being. Each of his arms wielded a different weapon, while his wings fluttered powerfully, creating a terrifying sight. The ensuing battle was intense. Geryon attacked from all sides, but Hercules, with his superhuman strength, resisted the blows and found openings to counterattack. Using his bow and arrows poisoned with the blood of the Lernaean Hydra, Hercules struck the giant in each of his bodies, bringing him down after a fierce struggle. With Geryon defeated, the hero approached the herd of cattle, now unprotected. Exhausted but victorious, Hercules gathered the animals and led them through the vast territory he had traversed. The return journey was equally challenging, but Hercules was determined to deliver the cattle to Eurystheus and complete another labor. When he finally returned to the kingdom of Eurystheus, the king, as always, was astonished by the magnitude of Hercules' achievement. The giant Geryon, a creature that seemed invincible, had been defeated, and his precious cattle were now under the hero's control. Once again, Hercules proved that, with strength, cunning, and an unshakable will, he could overcome the greatest challenges and face the most fearsome creatures of the mythological world. Hercules' 11th labor took him to one of the most enigmatic and legendary places in mythology, the Garden of the Hesperides, a secret paradise where the famous golden apples grew, divine fruits that granted immortality to those who possessed them. These apples were a wedding gift from Gaia, the earth, to Hera, and were guarded by a monstrous 100-headed dragon named Ladon. Hercules knew this task would be one of the most challenging, not only because of the dragon, but also because the Garden of the Hesperides was in an unknown location, hidden and protected by the gods. His journey began with the search for the path to the garden, leading him through various lands and dangerous encounters. After many adventures, Hercules learned that Atlas, the Titan condemned to hold up the sky on his shoulders, was the father of the Hesperides and knew the secret location of the garden. Cleverly, Hercules decided to seek Atlas's help. When he finally found the Titan, Hercules proposed a bold deal. He would hold up the sky temporarily, relieving Atlas of his eternal burden, while the Titan retrieved the golden apples for him. Atlas, eager for a chance to rest, agreed to the offer. Before departing, however, Hercules asked Atlas to slay the 100-headed dragon guarding the precious fruits. With his immense strength, Atlas faced Ladon in a fierce battle, ultimately defeating the monster and freeing the garden from its terrifying guard. With the dragon slain and the Hesperides peacefully offering the apples to their father, Atlas returned with the golden fruits in hand. However, upon his return, the Titan, now free from his burden, began to consider that perhaps it was better to let Hercules continue holding the sky while he enjoyed his newfound freedom. Having grown accustomed to the weight of the heavens, Atlas was not eager to take it back. Hercules, sensing Atlas's intent, was not fooled. With his famous cunning, he pretended to agree to Atlas's plan, but requested a small favor first, that the Titan hold the sky for just a moment so that Hercules could adjust the weight on his shoulders. Unsuspecting, Atlas agreed and lifted the heavens once more. In that instant, Hercules swiftly took the golden apples and departed, leaving Atlas with his eternal burden. Upon returning to the kingdom of Eurystheus, Hercules presented the golden apples, completing yet another impossible task. The mission to gather the divine fruits, which required not only strength but also intelligence, reaffirmed his status as the greatest of heroes. He had not only faced monsters and challenges, but had also outwitted a Titan, proving that his greatness extended beyond physical power. His mind was as sharp as his sword. The golden apples, after the mission, were returned to Athena, who brought them back to the Garden of the Hesperides, where they would remain under the protection of the goddesses. And once again, Hercules proved that he was on par with the gods, surpassing even them. Hercules' 12th and final labor was, without a doubt, the most feared of all, to descend into the realm of the dead and bring back Cerberus, the monstrous three-headed dog who guarded the underworld. This terrifying creature, with a serpent's tail and a presence that symbolized death and the underworld, was responsible for preventing souls from escaping the land of the dead and stopping the living from entering. Bringing Cerberus to the surface seemed like an impossible task, even for a hero like Hercules. To accomplish this task, Hercules would need to descend into Hades itself, face the terrifying guardian, and also request permission from the god of the underworld. With the help of Hermes, the messenger of the gods, and Athena, the goddess of wisdom, Hercules made his descent along the path that led to the shadowy realm. Upon reaching Hades, Hercules, without hesitation, explained his mission. The god of the dead, impressed by the hero's bravery, did not refuse the request but set a strict condition. Hercules could only take Cerberus to the surface if he could subdue him without using any weapons, relying solely on the brute strength of his arms. Confident in his own strength, Hercules accepted the challenge. As he approached the infernal dog, Hercules was met with a terrifying sight. Cerberus, with his 3 ferocious heads, snarled, his jaws dripping with venom, and his serpent tail lashed violently. The beast was ready to attack anyone who dared approach. Without his weapons, Hercules had only his strength and skill to rely on to overpower the creature. The battle that followed was titanic. Cerberus lunged at Hercules, biting and trying to suffocate him with its 3 heads, while its tail lashed out like a poisonous serpent. But Hercules, resolute and determined, grabbed the monster with all his might. His arms encircled the necks of the 3 heads, and he began to strangle it slowly, subduing the beast. The fight was long and brutal, but gradually Cerberus's resistance weakened. Hercules, never loosening his grip, managed to overpower the infernal dog. With Cerberus finally subdued, Hercules dragged him out of the underworld and brought him to the surface. When he arrived before Eurystheus, the king was terrified at the sight of the creature. Cerberus, even tamed, was still a horrifying vision with his 3 heads and bestial nature. Trembling with fear, Eurystheus could barely look at the beast and immediately ordered Hercules to return him to the underworld. Thus, Hercules, having completed his final labor, returned Cerberus to Hades, once again proving that there was no challenge or creature, no matter how fearsome, that he could not face. His journey of 12 labors had come to an end, marked by acts of unparalleled courage. strength, and determination. He had not only faced monsters and gods, but had also descended into the underworld itself and returned, something no other mortal hero had ever achieved.